Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Blue Sunday, brought to you on the Jumper Punch channel from In the Blue Corner. My name is Joe, and as usual, we have Mr. Vince Loccisano in Melbourne. How are you today, Vince?
Yes, good, Joe. And what a great win it was last night by the Carlton Football Club.
Yes,
First
we'll talk
time
a bit
in,
more about
12
that.
years that we've had a win over 100 points or something.
That's quite good, isn't it? Well, we'll talk about that in a bit of detail. But Vince, as you know, I have spies everywhere, right?
Oh,
and
geez. Here we go.
Please explain. What in God's name? Hang on. What in God's name were you doing at the MCG yesterday at 4:30 when Carlton were playing West Coast? Please explain.
Well, I wasn't there at 4:30. I was there at 7:30 when Carlton were playing West Coast.
Well, 4:30 here, and because of that, Vince, the selection committee, which will be introduced later, have decided that you need to be managed. So you'll be missing the next 2 weeks, right? You'll be with Tom DeConning, right? I don't want to see any videos of you vaping or out with Geelong footballers or.
Very good. I'll give you that one.
You need to understand. We need commitment, Vince. Right? Yes. You're either with us or against us. So you'll just have to make up your mind. Anyway, look, we'll talk about all the games now, and we'll talk about the team in Tassie. We've got a couple of really special guests. So, Vince, as per usual, let's go through what happened on Friday night.
Yes, well, it's been an amazing round of football, hasn't it, Joe? We saw a couple of 1-point results. In fact, the very last game of the round resulted in a 1-point result. But yes, we will start off at Friday night, where we saw St Kilda come off a 5-day break, and that seemed to have told on them just a little bit. And Port Adelaide, who went into this match with 3 previous victories, made it 4 in a row. Eventually just overwhelming St Kilda 12-11-83 to 11-10-76 by 7 points, and that has now cost St Kilda top spot on the ladder.
And on Saturday, Vince, the first game? Yes,
we've got the Brisbane Lions rolling along very nicely at the Gabba, 17-13, 115 to the Fremantle Dockers. Nowhere near the team they were last year, 10-7-67.
That's okay. We've got the Bears next week, or the Lions, whatever you want to call them.
The Lions.
After that, Vince, a really good game. I watched this.
Yes. Well, what a fantastic finish. This is one of the 2 results that finished up being determined by a solitary point. It just goes to show you when you get beaten by nearly 100 points the week before, it's very hard to come back and win. Sydney almost did it, but they still got pipped in the end. GWS Giants, they're in Sydney, 17-5. Very good kicking, 107. Defeating Sydney, 16-10, 106. And Toby Green, what can you say? He's the match winner.
Next game, Vince.
Next one is a fairly comfortable win in the end for the Western Bulldogs. After half-time, they kicked 7-2 to beat Hawthorn. Finishing with 14 goals, 10-94 in Marcus Bontempelli's 200th game to 9-11-65.
After that, Big Vince, we have
the game I went to, Melbourne. Wow. After a 5-day break against Richmond on Monday night, they followed up with a massive 90-point victory over North Melbourne, 22-7. Again, excellent kicking for goal, 139 to North Melbourne, 7-7-49. So a win there by exactly 15 goals. Could have even been more. They actually got up to 18 goals in front, conceded the last 3 goals of the game when I think they put the queue in the rack for the last 5 minutes.
Clarko's got his work cut out for him then.
Certainly has.
Then today, Vince, we had...
Yes, we had the fast starting. Yeah, well, we had the very fast starting Geelong team, who actually kicked the first 6 goals of the game, eventually winning by about 4.5 goals. They kicked 20 goals, 12, I should say, 132 to Essendon 16-8, 104. The Bombers did well not to capitulate and get done by 100 points like North Melbourne the night before. They also went down about 6 goals to nothing at one stage last night. But, they capitulated completely. But Essendon actually hung on and after only a 5-day break, fought the game out well, but never really looked like challenging Geelong for victory.
Okay.
So a good win to the Cats.
Sorry. One of the shocks of the round.
Yes, one of the real shocks of the round, I think, in a lot of people's minds. I think it's not necessarily signalling the arrival of the Gold Coast Suns, but it certainly signals the demise of the Richmond Tigers, I would have thought.
I think so.
I know they don't like playing there, but my word, they were listless today. 11 goals, 672 Gold Coast to Richmond 6-12, 48. And hence why Carlton supporters shouldn't get too excited just because we had a draw with them in the opening round.
Yeah, exactly. And in the last game, before we talk about our game?
This is a very closely fought tussle, very strategic game. I looked for all money like Adelaide were going to knock over Collingwood, but bad kicking, as you keep saying to us week after week, Joe, is bad football. And Collingwood eventually got up in the last minute of the game by a point. 8 goals, 11, 59 to Adelaide, 7, 16, 58. So a great game to watch if you're a neutral supporter, and no doubt even greater game to watch if you're a Collingwood supporter. But what can you say about this mob? After a 5-day break, it looked like, I think they were down 16 points at three-quarter time, and it looked like, they'd probably fade away, but they keep finding a way to win.
They do. So everyone knows that we won. We'll go through that result in a minute, but here's the ladder as it stands, Vince.
Yes, and Collingwood, with that victory today over Adelaide, have gone to the top of the ladder, and they are a game clear on 24 points, a percentage which is fairly, healthy. It's okay, but it's nothing brilliant, 117.7. But they just keep, as I said before, finding a way to win the close ones. They came back and won against Essendon during the week on Anzac Day. So, they're just an amazing side that finds a way. Melbourne, St Kilda, Brisbane and Port Adelaide follow them, all on 20 points. Then, of course, comes Carlton with that win over West Coast in 6th position on 4.5 wins. And then after that, we've got Geelong and Adelaide in the 8 on 16, and outside the 8, also on 16, but out on percentage, are Essendon and the Western Bulldogs. Then you've got 3 teams on 3 wins, being Sydney, GWS and Gold Coast. And you'd think that all 3 of those sides would need to start getting a wriggle on in terms of getting a few wins on the board if they're going to make the 8. And I think these next 5 teams, I think the writing's on the wall. Fremantle, North Melbourne on 2 wins out of 7. Richmond on 1.5 wins out of 7. They've been very disappointing. And Hawthorn and West Coast bringing up the rear. So they're only on 1 win after 7 rounds. And so that win over West Coast was essentially over the bottom of the ladder side.
That's it. Okay, so now it's time to analyse our regular Carlton game. First, can I introduce 1979 Premiership fullback / full forward and a regular panellist, Mr. Peter Brown. Good evening, Peter. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Vince. And good evening to our viewers and listeners.
G'day, Brown. Good to see you. And
we have a special guest with us tonight. We do indeed. I'm telling you now, this
guy...
Back
by popular demand, Joe.
He was a cult figure in his day.
He's
got many. I call him the Cat or Vinny, but a lot of his teammates call him Spinner. The one and only Vin Catoggio. How are you, Vin?
Yeah, good, Joe. Nice to be on the show again.
G'day, Vin.
Great to have you, mate.
Hi, Vince. Hi, Brownie, and to all the viewers.
Spinner.
And if people don't remember what these two looked like when they were in their heyday, have a look at this. Butter wouldn't melt in your mouth, Brownie. Have a look. Imagine a girl bringing this bloke home for dinner. Dad would be wrapped.
I reckon Vinny looks like something out of one of those psychedelic 70s movies, like Xanadu or something.
that was one of the Scanlan cards that I found, and I thought I'd put it up. Vin, you weren't into the hippie movement before the hippies, were you?
No way, mate. I didn't even know what a hippie was.
He thought that was an injury you had to your hip.
Anyway. All right, so we've got the two boys on. Listen, to all the viewers out there, if you've got any comments, questions for either Peter or Vin, please send them through. We'll get to them eventually. They're graciously giving up their time, as Peter does every week, and we're really happy to have Vin on this week. But Vince, take us through yesterday's game. Here's the score.
Yep. Indeed, what a huge win it was for Carlton. First time since 2011 that we've knocked over a side by this much. 23-14, 152 to the West Coast Eagles, 6-8-44. If you have a look at the quarter-by-quarter scores, we got off to a flying start, ticking a couple of goals pretty quickly and heading up to a 3 lead at quarter time, 5-6 to 2-3. Then we slammed on another 4-1 in the second quarter to go in with a very healthy 40-point lead at half time. That was 9-8-62 to 3-4-22. Then we piled on another 5 goals, 4 to only 3 points in the third quarter to put the game totally beyond reach of the West Coast Eagles. So we went in with a 71-point lead at three-quarter time. And I guess the question on everyone's lips was, are we going to fade out like we did against North Melbourne and let the Eagles peg that margin back, or are we going to finally put a team to the sword and really make it count? I'm sure that Voss would have told them, I want a 100-point win, boys, at three-quarter time, and that's exactly what they delivered, kicking 9-2 to 3-1 in the last quarter, and as I said, finishing on 23-14, 152 to 6-8-44 in what can only be described as a comprehensive victory by the Blues. Major goal kickers, Charlie Curnow, 9 goals, 3 for the night in an amazing performance. Jack Silvani kicked 3 and 2 goals to Harry McKay, and then singles to a number of players, Corey Durden, Nick Newman, Blake Akers, Adam Chera, Patrick Cripps, Ollie Hollins, Young Honey also kicked a goal, and as did Josh Honey, I think it is, and Brody Kemp and Matthew Kennedy also kicked a goal as well. So lots of goal kickers there, which would have no doubt pleased Brownie. I'm sure he often goes on that we don't have enough goal kickers through the midfield and in those small forward positions, but they certainly shared it around last night.
That's it. Let's have a look at some major statistics, and then we'll get on to. We've already got a couple of questions.
Yep.
So we've got disposals. Well, West Coast are on the left and Carlton are on the right. So we killed them there. I don't think there's much to be said there. We basically dominated the play. Marks, well, I think we were just way too good for them. The one that sort of got me, and I'll ask Vinny about this one later, what he thinks of our ruckman Mark Pitternet as an ex-Rover. But, I mean, he did win the hit-outs, but I don't think, even in the clearances, it wasn't as comprehensive as one would think. Tackles, well, 83 to 64. I still don't think our small forwards tackle enough, but tackles inside 50. I suppose the ball was in our 50 more than theirs. Scoring, we were very efficient for a change. And that's it. So let's get to a question. So, Vin, one person's already asked me,
Yep.
How can Carlton get more out of their small forwards?
Look, I tend to think that they're too close to the fall of the ball. They're not moving as the ball's coming down. I think you've got to be able to be on the move, on the fly. If you're standing there under a pack and the ball does come to you, with so many players around the ball these days, you're just going to get tackled. So you can't really do much with the ball. So you really got to be out and then running in and hopefully read the ball off the pack, maybe get a handball. Yeah, I think that's where we're a little bit in trouble. We don't have our small forwards kicking multiple goals. And if you have a day where the big blokes don't kick goals, you have to produce goals from outside. So yeah, that's what I'd be saying. I don't think, really you can just stand still. You've got to be moving, and if you're moving at pace, it's very hard to get caught. There are times you're going to get trapped, but if you're able to, give a handball out, that type of stuff. Yeah, so that disappoints me a bit because I can't remember the last time we had one of those small blokes kick a bag of goals.
Yeah. Vin, is that something that is intuition, or is that something that can be taught, or what do you think?
Yes, but look, it's got a little bit of both. And the other thing is too, you got to be a little bit hungry at the same time as wanting to kick a couple goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what you got to be doing. The great small blokes at Carlton in our time when Brownie and I were playing, Ashman, Marcoux, Buckley, Sheldon, they all kicked multiple goals. If one week someone would pop up a kick 4, 5, 6 even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think Alex Marcoux had Vince, is that right? Alex Marcoux had a percentage of the players back
1.3. Each of the small forwards in the Mosquito fleet, between the whole lot of them, kicked an average of 1.3 goals each per game. So, in other words, there might have been 8 of them, and they'd kick about 11 or 12 goals for the game between those 7 players, and some of them were not in the small forward position. They were on the wings, or they were in the middle of the ground, or on a half forward flank or something. So that was an average of all of them as a collective per game. It's an incredible amount of goals, because back in those days, as you'd remember, both of you would actually remember, Brownie and Vinny, you really didn't have too many tall forwards that kicked multiple bags of goals as much as you would have liked to, Brownie.
No, definitely not. And in fact,
by the way, you might just want to come a little bit closer to the screen and a little bit higher if you can. That's better.
How's that?
That's good. Yeah. Excellent. Yep.
I think on the front bar the other night, Alex was a guest on that, and he actually reinforced what you were talking about, Vince. That each of the Mosquito fleet, we'll call it, every game that they went out, someone contributed each time that they actually went out, and they all hit the scoreboard. And as a result of that, the big forwards, I'll call them, and I put myself in amongst there, but guys like McClure and myself and Goldie and all those sort of guys, if we didn't kick them ourselves, when all we had to do was make a contest of it and bring the ball to ground so that these guys could come through. Even Spinner was in amongst there, and all the small guys, and they knew as soon as the ball hit the ground. And Vinny was right. If you looked at the game on Tuesday, the Anzac round, Collingwood, and particularly Nick Dacos, kicked a goal by being on the move, and that's all it was. The ball was in, and he was on the move. And as you know, guys, I've been pretty critical of the fact that our guys stand around flat-footed too much and aren't on the move. And as a defender, all you've got to do is just take that space away from it. And as Vinny said before, if you're not on the move, then you're easy to get out of the game. But if you're on the move, you're a lot harder to take out of the game.
Hey, Brownie, just talking about the big forwards, what do you think? I know Charlie kicked 9 goals. What do you think of how they used Big Harry and Charlie this week?
Well, Harry actually was the first to score out of the 2 bigs on the other night. And what I thought was that Harry looked like he was going to be in for a reasonable day. The unfortunate thing was that Harry actually kicked around the corner twice and scored, and then actually went back and had a set shot and shit himself. So he was. The sad reality is that he has lost confidence in the fact that he can't run through and kick truly. I said this to Vince the other day. There was a podcast done that Brendan Favola was involved in, and it was him and Daisy Thomas, I think it was. And what happened was that Favola actually made an approach to the club when Teague was coaching and suggested that he would pull Harry aside and perhaps just get him to get a specific routine. Now, it's funny because most of the guys that are on 360 and a lot of other football shows have been saying that he hasn't got any set routine when he's actually lining up for goal. And as a result of that, he's got no confidence in his kicking and kicking straight. So that's why he kicks around corners. And the result of that is that if he's not on early, then he falls away. And I think what happened was that he kicked too early in the first quarter, but then the one that he did have a set shot with, you could see that his body language had dropped. And as a result of that, he was in a situation where I think his confidence level dropped, even though he was still, being a target. So, and look, I was disappointed to hear that about him not taking Favola up on that opportunity to do a routine or to go through a routine with him, or at least give him some advice.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And Vin, I mentioned him before, the big ruckman, Pitnet. Would you like to rove to him? I don't know does he bring much to the club?
He's not Mike Fitzpatrick. Look.
Is he closer to a Wow Jones then?
Yeah. Look, I think. You just having someone contest. That's the main thing, because if you got the other ruckman palming it, we're going to be in trouble. So at least if he makes an effort to contest the ball, then it's left to the on ballers to pick up the crumbs.
Yeah,
I thought he's. Sorry, Joe, but I actually made a note of Pitnet and after the game, and one of the notes that I made here was that I reckon that his timing was out when he was actually, particularly more so with the centre bouncers. I thought his timing and his run at the jump, I thought, was completely out. Now, I don't know whether that was something that was caused by the other ruckman jumping higher than what Pitnet was actually jumping, but I felt that he actually lowered his colours, Pitnet. I didn't think that his game was as good as it has been.
What about Tom de Koning? Does he have a future at Carlton? Either of you? Anyone?
I reckon the 800,000 that they're talking about. Geez, I'll tell you something. I don't know if I'm willing to pay a bloke that's only played a few games 800,000. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think he's worth it at the moment.
Do you think he could develop into a good ruckman though? No, let's pretend we don't pay him 800,000. Is he worth persisting with?
For sure. If you pay him 800,000, you're going to lose. You're going to have to lose 2 or 3 players to other clubs, because I won't be able to fit him in the salary cap because they're on the line now. So it's going to be very hard.
And what about the game plan this week? Did you notice anything different, either Peter or Vinny or Vince? I'm happy for anyone to answer.
I thought the game plan was centred in and around trying to control the centre, and that's something that we haven't done through the through the centre of the ground rather than we didn't do it against Adelaide. We got smashed through there. We didn't do it against St Kilda. We got smashed through there. And look, let's get this in perspective, guys. That West Coast side is depleted, whether it be through injury, whether it be through other circumstances, and let's not get too carried away with that. I made a note here that we've got Brisbane, we've got who we got? We got Brisbane, we've got Bulldogs, we've got Collingwood, we've got Sydney, and we've got Melbourne. Now, in those next 5 games, that'll be a real test to see whether we can control the centre and whether we will get the supply that we got in that game, particularly to our forwards. And in relation to De Koning, and I've been saying this for a number of weeks now, I think they should be playing him as the athletic follower around the ground and actually positioning him behind the ball rather than be in a situation where they're relying upon him to be the number one ruckman.
Hey, Brownie, Pete, Brad Scott must have heard you because his younger brother played exactly that role today for Geelong.
You mean Chris Scott?
Chris Scott, sorry, yeah. Played exactly that same role with Geelong today. And I think he's an inch shorter or an inch taller. I think they look like twins, but he played that exact same role today.
Yeah.
And did quite well. So
Well, De Koning is in his 6th year this year. He's currently 23. He'll be 24, I think, is in July. I think he's played under 50 games, but he's approaching his 50th game. I would have thought that the reason that they didn't play him this week, after apparently resting him and managing him, as they say, managing him the previous week, was because of some indiscretion that he was allegedly guilty of during the week, where he was videoed with his brother and a couple of young ladies at some place, and he was vaping apparently. So I have a feeling that he may not have played against West Coast for disciplinary reasons rather than anything else. He's got to really come to terms with where he's at in his career, and I would have thought that he needs to start making some decisions about how committed he's going to be towards being a professional AFL footballer, whether it's at Carlton or anywhere else. Because if he's going to start doing that sort of thing during the week, I don't think that's a good look, nor is it a good thing for your body.
One of the things that Spinner will tell you this, one of the things that I find is that ruckmen don't mature until they're around 25, 26, 27.
Most of them don't,
That's when they actually do start to produce the goods in and around that sort of time frame. Spinner, what's your view on that?
Yeah, look, I agree 100% with you. Well, Jones was a perfect example. He, probably about, I reckon, from 27 onwards to the day he retired, he was playing his best football.
Yep.
So but I think a lot of ruckmen do take a lot of time. So I'm not doubting his ability, but I'm just doubting what the price tag that he's asking for, and I just think you're going to lose some good players. Yeah. Because they're going to have to cut blokes to pay him.
I actually wonder whether he's actually suited to being a ruckman. I tend to agree with Brownie. If you play him in a similar role to his brother around that centre half back line, he's got a great leap on him, and play him as a permanent centre half back, and back him in there, he'll be able to see the game in front of him and be able to attack it from that position. And I think that's exactly what his brother does. And when you look at Mitch McGovern, he was treading water with us for a number of years before they finally realised that, hey, maybe we should be playing him in the similar role to his brother, which is, of course, Jeremy McGovern at West Coast. So, maybe we should be doing exactly what their brothers are doing at both other clubs.
I don't think you can put Mitch and Jeremy in the same class, to be honest.
But Mitch, what I'm saying, Brown, is that Mitch is playing far better football across the half back line, taking intercept marks than what he is at centre half forward, getting about 6 to 7 possessions a game and kicking 1 goal, because that's effectively what he was doing when he was there.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, that was a good question by, I think it was Peter Peter V Bluebagger who wrote in with that question, didn't he, about TDK?
Yeah.
Yep.
What about, we've just got one here. Would you bring Owies straight back into the seniors? I think they prefer Motlop myself, but I don't think we get it. I don't think we get enough out of our small forwards. We've been through this with Vin. Vin, who do you think our better small forwards are? I'm assuming you watch most of the games.
They're not sort of all that far apart, are they?
They all give you the same thing, don't they?
Yeah, look, at the moment they're probably, I think a one goal sort of each type player. You occasionally get maybe 2 from Durham or something like that. But yeah, you just need, as I said, I think they're just a bit stagnated. I think there wasn't a lot of change in the game plan this week. It was all that, you can only play the team that's, given to you from the opposition.
Exactly.
As Brownie said, and I'm not disrespectful to the players as people, just as players, but there's some of those guys that play for West Coast, shouldn't even be playing.
They were half a reserves team, Vinny.
Yeah.
Even at full strength this year, West Coast is still a bottom 4 side.
Yeah.
Even if they were full strength.
Jack Darling's had his day too.
Yeah.
Can I ask Vinny? Sorry, Vinny. Spinner, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you think of our work rate with our forwards, particularly more so when we haven't got the ball? Do you think our forwards we're not getting enough stoppages, particularly in the forward 50, and we're not locking it in as much as we should do and allowing sides to run through?
Yeah, that's where they can improve, because against the better sides, they'll hurt us. Once the ball goes in our forward line, it comes out a bit too easy. So, yeah, they can lock down a little bit better. It takes the pressure off the ball going back the other way. So, yeah, that's a good point, Brownie.
Then, one person I want to mention, Zach Fisher. What's his role in the team? Is he a forward? Is he a mid? Do you think he's been there like 7-8 years. I still don't know if he's a small forward. I don't know if he's a mid. I don't know if he's a wingman. What are your thoughts on him?
Something. If I was Carlton, I'd probably try him as a small goal kicking forward rather than out on the wing. I reckon he might be able to be the player that kick 2 or 3. And change up maybe one of those Motlop or someone like that, or I'd rather have the red-headed bloke that's not playing. Why is he playing?
Cottrell.
Yeah, is he injured?
He played in the reserves yesterday. He's come back from an Achilles. Yeah, his first game back.
I'd have him in before Fisher on a wing, straight off, because he has a red hot go, and I'd have Fisher up on the running in under Curnow and Mackay. And I reckon you might be able to get a couple of goals out of him up there. I think he's just. I think that's what
they were hoping to get from Jack Martin, but he's always bloody injured.
Yeah.
Another waste of 800,000. Him and Zach Williams. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. Vince, any questions? Come on.
Spinner, with Fisher, he's in a situation where he can get the ball, right? So there's no doubt he can get the ball. It's just unfortunate that when he's further up the ground, he turns it over too easily. I agree with you. I reckon play him closer to home, and he had 3 opportunities to score and he missed all three. Now, whether that's because he was bloody well under pressure or whether he put himself under that pressure, but if he's in a situation where his role or his job is to shark what's going on around the bigs, then that would take probably the more onus off him not having to go into the back half rather than be in a situation where he can stay in the front.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with you there, Brownie.
Look, guys,
hey, Brownie. Sorry, Vince.
Sorry, you know.
I'm gonna mention Brownie's favourite player. What'd you think of our mate McGovern on the weekend?
I'm still not convinced. Even with the opposition that they were playing against, I thought McGovern might have had the opportunity to shine, and he still didn't impress.
No. And he got six kicks. I think he got 6 kicks, 2 hand passes, 1 mark, and 2 tackles. That was it. He was probably Carlton's fourth lowest rated player on the ground.
Yeah, I thought Brody Kemp did okay down back. He
was second last.
Yeah.
What do you think of Brody Kemp, Peter Brown, or Vin Katoggio? Either or.
I'll go first. I'll keep him in the side.
Yeah, I'm the same. I was just going to say, I think you've got to persist with some of these guys coming in because our bottom 6 players can fall away. And when you look at the top sides, Melbourne, Geelong, those sort of sides, their bottom 6 players are good players. So we need those guys to really step up. So the more games that they can get, the better we'll be. And, one of those guys turn out to be a bloody good player. But they've just got to be given the opportunity.
Yeah, I think Carlton are very quick to play them for a week and then drop them and play them another week and then drop them.
Yeah.
I thought Saad did okay. I know they subbed him out, but apparently that was a pre-planned move anyway. So, I mean, he gave us a lot of run from that back line, Saad.
Yeah.
Which is what
don't you think we look a hell of a lot better with Doherty and Saad in that team? I mean, they just make a world of difference, I would have thought, when it comes to transitioning the ball from defence into attack.
I think Doherty does straighten us up somewhat. They tend to be not as timid with Doherty in the side. Saad's never going to be a tough player, but he's going to give you plenty of run off half back. However, and I caution, Saad gets caught out quite a lot, purely and simply because he runs too much off back and not in a situation where he's actually being productive with some of his thrusts forward.
Yeah.
And can get caught on the way back sometimes when the ball gets turned over, Brownie.
And don't forget, he's only got one side of his body.
Yeah.
So is Zach Fisher too. He got caught out a lot yesterday. If you notice, he run, and they all wake up to it. They all know that he can only kick on his left.
Well, it's the same. It's the same with Harry Mackay. Harry Mackay's only got the left-hand side of his body. He hasn't got a right-hand side of his body either. And dare I say it, but I will. Our skipper's only got one side of his body as well.
Cripps.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, Vince, just in case my battery ran out, and I've been out all day, and I just noticed there's only about 10% left on it. So I don't want to.
We'll let you say everything that you want to say between now.
Yeah, go, Vinny. Go.
Okay, it's the Vin Katoggio show. Here we go.
Because otherwise, I think I'm going to bomb out.
No, that's all right. No, that's all right. We're going to boot you off after 10 minutes anyway, Vinny.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
No, I think I better shoot off pretty soon because I don't want to impact the show.
No, that's all right.
Well, Vinny, we'll let you go, but before you do, give us an overall assessment of where you think we're at, what you think we're missing, and how you think we'll go for the rest of the year.
Okay, well, my thought has always been that we're gonna finish top 4 to have a chance. Okay, so the next 5 weeks, as Brownie said, will be a big test. Now, if we can come away winning 3 of those games, we're a chance to get there. If we finish in the top 8, we need to win a final, and that'd be a plus, be a good mark for us, to win a final. But if we make top 4, hey, it's open. Anyone can win.
Can you see us missing the 8?
No.
Okay. So as far as you're concerned, we're in the top 8. You heard it here first.
Sorry. Yeah. I think sides like Hawthorn, North Melbourne, Richmond, GWS, West Coast, they're not going to be any challenges to any of those other sides just on top of them. So I think we'll win enough games to make the 8. I'm actually, bullish that if we can win enough, we could maybe sneak with that half a game. We've got that half a game bonus. That might be the game that puts us either in or out of the 4.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, listen, Ben. We'll let you go. Next time we'll get you back. You're always welcome on the show. So I'll get your details off Mr. Loccisano. But on behalf of all of Carlton supporters, thanks for the games that you gave us, and thanks for joining us tonight.
And can I just say something before Vinny goes, Joe?
Yes, you may.
To all of our viewers out there, not only has Vinny taken the time to come on our show tonight, but he also took the time to be interviewed by myself and Rocco from the Jumper Punch last week. And if you want to see that interview, it will be aired in full this coming Wednesday night on the Jumper Punch channel as part of our Legends of the Jumper Punch series. So it's a terrific interview. Vinny was fantastic in that interview. We told a lot of stories and had a few laughs, and I'm sure you'll get as much entertainment as Rocco and I had interviewing him. And of course, it'll be previewed on the Tuesday night Jumper Punch, but in full on Wednesday night here on the Jumper Punch channel. So, Vinny, again, thanks so much, mate, for joining us tonight. Always love your insights, and no doubt we'll get you back before we know it, and we'll talk to you again in the not too distant future.
Okay, see you again. Good to see you again.
Love you, Brady.
See you, Spinner.
See you, mate. Well, at least someone loves you, Brownie. Someone loves me. He's still got a lot of insight, old Vin. Pete, what about? I know someone who you thought did quite well, Chincotta.
Yes, absolutely.
He's got both sides of the body. If you notice, he likes to run onto his left and all right. So
I did notice that, Joe. There was a couple of occasions that he actually came off, backed himself, and actually won the ball. And he was on the left-hand side of his body and delivered beautifully up the ground. So yeah, look, for his second run, I thought that was a really, really good game.
Yeah.
It's been good to see some of these players blooded by the club in the last couple of weeks, isn't it, Brownie? I mean, Chincotta's been given his go and taken it with both hands. Hollands has been playing all year, and he's been most impressive, I would have thought.
He's done very well.
We also saw Kemp debuting for the first time. When I say debuting, only for this season. He's played a handful of games up until now, but I thought he started off really well, kicked the goal at the end of the game as well, which was really good to see. He got 22 possessions, and it was a welcome return to form for George Hewitt, I thought, last night. I thought he did very well. He's been missing all year, really. He hasn't been the same George Hewitt that we saw last year, but I think we saw a lot more of what he can do last night. But, of course, look, I think Carlton supporters tend to latch on to results like this, and I guess because they haven't seen too many 100-point wins, they're all getting a bit excited. But I think the danger here is that we all get a bit ahead of ourselves. You've got to surely temper this a little bit with saying who are we really playing here, or who did we play last night? And I didn't see any real pressure coming from West Coast at any stage during the night. And I think the real big tests are ahead of us. I couldn't help but feel all the way through last night that, yes, on one hand, great to see us play with a bit of system. We cut up the middle of the ground. We were slicing them up unbelievably through the corridor. And they looked like they were really having a lot of fun out there. But, you were playing one of the worst teams in the AFL, and only half of their best side was in. So, I do sort of take it with a slight grain of salt, but obviously welcome the 100-point win. You can't criticise that. But, yeah, I do think that we need to put it into context. We've only really beaten bottom of the ladder sides this year, apart from Geelong. But Geelong at the time were also very, very slow to start the season, as we all know. So I think we still have to really prove ourselves against one of the top 4, top 6 sides before we can get too excited.
I think this Friday will be a big game. I mean, it's Doc's 150th.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of big injuries. I was just watching the thing. Dane Zorko looks like he's going to miss. Daniel Rich looks like he's going to miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, not that you want to beat the best team, but I mean, for us, that's still pretty good.
We'll talk about that later. We'll have a little preview of that game later, but I think it's got a bit of a feel to it for me, like the Carlton versus Sydney game at Marvel Stadium last year that we had on a Friday night, where we took the opportunity to beat one of the top sides on the ladder. And at that point, once we won that game last year, we went to 8 wins and 2 losses after 10 rounds. And that was a pivotal victory. Probably our best victory for the year last year. I think this game against Brisbane has the same sort of possibilities.
Lana's talking about Nick Newman. I think he's having a great year. Lets us down sometimes with some of his disposal, but he's been very tight in defence.
Yeah,
he's definitely been a giant killer, Newman. He's taken the role on, and he's been given the role of nullifying a lot of their best forwards. So I think he's done done an exceptional job.
He did a great job on Toby Green a couple of weeks ago. So not many people do that. All right, let's get to our. Sorry?
I was just going to say, I know, Vince, you said we'll get to the analysis of the game next week. So I've made a couple of notes here to see who will do what.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we do that, let's get to our votes for this week. I'll let you go first, Pete. You gave?
Look, without doubt, I mean, it's a lay-down misère, Charlie, kicking 9 goals and figured very prominently. I thought his passion early wasn't there until he started to get a roll, and then you could see the old Charlie was coming back. He had the guns out, and he was prepared to rev them up a bit. Interestingly enough, Joe, you mentioned George Hewitt had been, or might have been you, Vince, said that he'd been missing for a few weeks. George did an exceptional job on Kelly and took him right out of the game. In fact, Kelly is the most dangerous player in West Coast. I rate Kelly. He had a knockout year here in Geelong, and of course, then he went from there over to West Coast. He hasn't figured as prominently over there.
No, he hasn't, has he?
No, he did a ripper job on Kelly, and not only that, was able to accumulate some really good possessions himself. And then the last one was Akers, and I think his work rate going forward and in the back line was exactly what we're after. We need a wingman to be able to cover that ground forward and back and be that extra, opportunity to relieve any pressure or be an opportunist, particularly more so in the forward line. So I had Curnow, Hewitt and Akers.
Okay. Vince?
Yes, again, for the same reasons that we've all said, Charlie Curnow, outstanding game. I mean, how can you give anyone else 3 votes when he's kicked 9 goals? He actually didn't just kick 9 goals, but he kicked them from everywhere. And some of
and
his
missed
shots
some easy ones too.
Well,
the
yeah,
three
he could have
easy.
kicked 11 or 12. But you know, some of the goals he kicked even from boundary line positions were dead eye. And he's an exciting player to watch. You could easily see if he can keep this sort of form up, that not only could he win another Coleman medal, but you know, it's hard to see why the umpires wouldn't give him votes either in the Brownlow. So, you know, he potentially could be a winner of both. That's how good that's how well he plays in my eyes, and that's how much he stands out on the ground. So 3 votes to Charlie Curnow, 2 to Nick Newman. Again, for all the reasons that you said, Brownie, he's absolutely killing it at the moment. 34 possessions, and a very high percentage of those were kicks. 26 kicks and 8 hand passes. 14 marks as well. 5 tackles, and also kicked a beautiful goal from around 50 metres out. And I thought he probably rated as highly as what Charlie did on the ground, but for different reasons. I gave him 2, and 1 vote to Blake Acres, who again impresses so much with how he runs both ways and how he delivers the ball. I think he's been a fantastic addition to our midfield group, and especially on that wing where he is so damaging. He seems to really play well on that ground too, I've got to say. Yeah. Obviously, him and Chera I thought was the other one competing for a vote with him. I left him out, but he could have easily given a vote to about 5 other players. Certainly Chera and Acres do love that ground over at Optus Stadium in Perth.
Yeah. So
both former Fremantle players, of course.
Indeed. Yeah, so I gave 3 votes to Charlie Curnow. He couldn't go. I gave 2 to Chera. I thought that was probably close to his best game in the navy blue jumper.
That's what you said last week.
No, well, he did a lot of defensive work. Last week he only got 1 vote off me, but I think now he's starting to get a bit damaging. Last year I didn't see him sort of hurting opposition. I think now he's starting to get a bit of confidence with the blokes around him, and he's becoming more linking and damaging. Mm-hmm. And I gave 1 to Sam Walsh. He did a lot when he didn't have the ball. He had like 10 tackles. So I thought his defensive game was quite good. But, you know, Singh Cotter is probably unlucky to miss out.
Excuse me, Joe. I'm very disappointed in you. Here I am trying to educate Brownie on how to pronounce Italian names, and you say Sin Cotter. It's Chin Cotter. Get it right. Otherwise, don't claim that you're Italian.
I don't. I'm Australian. So let's go to the leaderboard. Charlie's had 3 perfect games. Yep. So he's out in front on 27 votes. Yep. Second is Sam Walsh, who's missed the first 4 weeks.
Yep, only played 3 so far.
Yeah, so imagine if we'd have had him in the first 4 weeks.
He's had votes from all 3 games. Yep.
Yeah, Chera is on 11. Cripps 11. Not as damaging as last year, which is good and bad. I mean, it's good that we've got a few other people stepping up. Bad probably for his form. And Nick Newman there on 11. Then we go down to Blake Acres and Doherty. I think Blake Acres has been a fantastic pickup for us this year. Really, 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 really good on that wing. Then George Hewitt, Lewis Young, and Ed Curnow. Talking of which, before we go on to next week, what do we think about Ed?
Ed looks slow.
Yeah.
I thought he looked slow. I'm not sure whether he's carrying or not, but I think Ed might have to be managed.
In other words, dropped and omitted. Can I suggest? I personally don't understand why he was selected. He had a very poor game last week. I think he only got 5 possessions. He might have been subbed off with a bit of an injury. And what role did he play last night? I mean, if he's not tagging someone, why play him? I don't understand it. I really don't. And he only had a very mediocre game, like 16 possessions, 10 kicks and 6 hand passes, 5 marks, 3 tackles. But you hardly noticed him, to be honest. I don't even know why he was out there, to be frank. But the one player that you started to allude to, Joe, that I'd like to ask Brownie about is our captain, Patrick Cripps. Now, a lot of people would have, thought he was one of the best on the ground, and he certainly kicked a nice goal there in the last quarter when the game was all over. He had 33 possessions and 8 tackles. That's on the positive side. But he only had 6 kicks and 27 hand passes. Is that going to be his role for good? That sort of inside bustling midfielder that wins the contested ball, gets the clearance by hand rather than foot?
Look, I think that you mentioned he had, 20-odd hand passes, 26 hand passes?
27 hand passes, 6
27
kicks.
hand passes.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon at least 14 of those went straight back into trouble. And they weren't the damaging, clearing hand passes that you require to be able to release players, to be able to attack. And there was... it was funny, Vince, because we were texting through the game, and you alluded to what sort of possession count he'd actually had. And as I said to you straight away, well, half of them are into trouble, and not necessarily to an advantage or to a situation where we could release somebody to go into attack. So I think. I think he's still got a role to play within the in the midfield, but I would be putting him up forward. I reckon I'd be using him in and around as a Silvani role, to be honest with you, and getting to that. One of the things that I've got to say, and I said this to you, Vince, when we were texting backwards and forwards. One of the things that Patrick is finding himself in is that a lot of players are running away from him now, particularly going into attack, and he's in a situation where he's behind. Some of the footage was pretty damning. He just looked like he wasn't interested in. Was
that young Xavier O'Neill, number 24 for the West Coast? Was he his opponent in that second quarter? Because I think he kicked a couple of goals, didn't he?
Correct. And and bugger me dead if it wasn't the next centre bounce that Patrick bounced out of the centre square and kicked it long to Charlie, who then scored. I just think that, and you made a point some weeks ago, Vince, is he managing it himself? In other words, is he just doing what he has to do? And that type of thing. Well, he is himself a bit. Yeah, well, if that is, that's disappointing, because that's not what a captain's role is. A captain's role is to lead from the front. And
look, I don't know. I'm just asking the question. That at times I just wonder whether he's going in full pelt every single time, and whether he saves himself up a little bit so that he's got a bit left in the tank towards the end of the game. I don't know. I think he did enjoy himself out there last night. I mean, even though he got 6 kicks and 27 hand passes, he still would have had a pretty good time of it. Most of them did. It was like Christmas had all come at once for all of them, really, because they were sometimes going around witches' hats. And that's why I said I commend them for the performance, and I celebrate it like any other Carlton supporter. But we can't assume that all of a sudden, because we've had this big win, that all of a sudden we're a top 4 material. And I've seen some social media where people are saying we're back on track. Let's win this premiership, and let's go for top 4 again. I mean, we still have to prove ourselves against quality opposition and be able to produce when the pressure's really on. I mean, that's the only time we'll know whether this group of players and the coaches have got what it takes to compete with the best of them.
Well, that'll happen this week, Vince.
And I agree with that, Vince. I think there is a situation where the next 5 games are the danger games, as far as I can see, for our season, to be honest with you. And I think if we can stack up against that, then we might have half a show. But there's too many question marks over it for mine. And I did actually text you during the broadcast of that game and said that, one game doesn't make up for the insipid performances against Adelaide and St Kilda when we had opportunity to really consolidate as a football club and find ourselves. And and I know, Vince, because we spoke about this, and I think I did with you too, Joe. And you know me, I'm not going to bugger eyes around. I mean, if they'd have got rolled yesterday, I reckon that the new stand at Icon Park would have been bloody well torn down.
Burnt down. I think you're right.
But everybody's been coming out and saying it. The media's been coming out and saying it, and I know the media can be harsh sometimes. Yeah. But I mean, there was an article in the paper on Friday from Mickey McGuan, for goodness sake. Now, Mickey McGuan, everyone thinks that Mickey's a bit of a fool on occasions, but by Jesus, he's got a good football brain. And what we've been saying for a number of weeks now, he came out and actually put in the article in the paper, and it was a 2-page spread. And the way that he'd written the article, I thought was pretty well spot on. And he was basically saying that Voss, as a coach of the side, he was really at the crossroads. And by Jesus, if we'd have come away with getting a loss yesterday, I think things would have been slightly different. Now, yes, we'll take the win, and I think we'll learn some things from that. But we've also got to work on some things still. And as I alluded to Spinner before, our forward pressure in our 50 is terrible. We need to be better at that, to give our backs a half a chance to bloody will defend against things coming through. We've got to learn to control the centre of the ground on more efficiently against good sides, not just sides like West Coast. And I don't mean that disrespectfully for West Coast, but realistically, they were a reserve side, and we're in a situation here where, and I said some weeks ago that our percentage was bloody awful, and that half a game that we got off Richmond, if it came down to percentages and stuff like that, that we'd be in a bit of a strife, but. Now we're in a situation where we've improved that a little bit. But, I still think we've got some things to learn. I think we've still got some things to work on. I think we've got to blood some more people. I think that we will get more consistent with more hunger.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, what heartened me about our performance, sorry, Joe, just one more thing.
No, you're right.
Is that we started to play for the first time that I could see for the year, really. Maybe we showed good signs against Geelong, but it wasn't sort of across the entire game. We finally played 4 quarters for starters. We absolutely won each of the 4 quarters, hands down, clearly outscored them in every one of those. Now, that's something we haven't done for a fair while. Secondly, we started playing with some system. You could start to see that they were using the corridor, going through the middle, hand passing a lot more, and starting to build some chains where there was really clear transition from defence into attack. That's what I was impressed with. But again, I put that disclaimer on that, who are we really playing? I just want to go quickly through the players that were out for West Coast. Now, they're already a bottom 4 side, but even out of that side last night, Nick Natanui did not play. Luke Shuey did not play. Jamie Cripps did not play. Elliot Yeo, Jeremy McGovern, Dom Sheed, Liam Ryan. I mean, these are just some of the names that were out. And they are all, most of those are Premiership players and top quality, all Australian type players. And without those guys in their side, they were never going to be competitive against us last night. Never.
And you only beat what's out there, though, Vince.
I know. That's quite right, and that's true. You can only beat what you're given to beat, and we did. We beat them comprehensively. Finally, put our foot on the throat of an opponent, and we killed them off. But I'm just saying that I think most sides last night would have absolutely done the same.
One of the things that I found interesting, even as good as Charlie was in the air, we're still not lowering our eyes enough going inside 50. And we're in a situation. Now, you asked me a question about Harry Mackay before, and I didn't quite finish my comments on that. I think the jury's still out for mine, and not because he kicks around corners, which I've got a problem with, but I think that he's very much a confidence player, and if the confidence is really, really low, and unless Harry can impose, he's in a situation where he finds himself in pretty foreign territory. I will give credit where credit's due. There was on a couple of occasions when Curnow and Harry were in the same area, and Harry actually used his body to block the defender from coming in and actually taking it away from Charlie. So
that was good to see.
Credit's due there. They were working a little bit better where that was concerned. There was a comment made on the footy show actually this morning, believe it or not, that they said that Harry looks more dangerous up the ground than he does closer to goal. And I think we've commented on that before. But I still think that we need to be in a situation where those two have still got to alternate between the square and up the ground. Like, we can't always have Charlie back in the square. You know, that's a nice luxury to have. But he could be, you know, if he's having a bad day, get him up the ground so that he can be influenced there. And as I said, if we need to bring Cripps forward, then we do.
Okay, so I think we're just going to have one last comment on yesterday's game. And it's time for...
Beautiful kick from Brown. That's a magnificent kick. Look at that. He was inside the centre square when he kicked that for a goal.
The old Peter Landy, eh? He went to my... I'll let me tell you some stories about Peter Landy off here. Anyway, Pete, who did you give your brownie points to and why?
Chinotto.
Oh
my God! Oh no! No, that's an Italian drink. That's an
drink.
Italian citrus drink, cola drink. That's called Chinotto. This is Alex Chincotta.
Chinotto.
No.
I'm not a very good Italian. No, I thought Alex's performance. I said last week, he came in for his first game, and I thought he held his own. And then yesterday. Not only did he hold his own, but he was actually showing signs of being a very, very good defender from the point of view of being able to use both sides of his body. And secondly, he starved his opponent of opportunities. So, and you can tell that he is hungry. You can tell that he really wants to play. And you can tell that, you know, and look, I can speak clearly on this because I was a battler. Now, you know, the guys out there that are hungry are the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to be reliable, particularly in tough situations. So, and for that reason, I gave Alex the brownie points for the round.
Great choice, I think. I reckon that's a really good choice. In only his second game for Carlton.
And 26 years old, a mature age rookie, isn't he? Or mature age person?
Mature age recruit, From the VFL, he basically got a gig. Well, he was playing in our VFL team last year, and he was given AFL list status this year. So it's a great rise. Yeah.
He's from Perth too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a WA boy.
And fortunately, he looks like a footballer.
Yeah,
not sure about the haircut at the back, but yeah, okay.
He's got the Dusty Martin haircut going.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's get on to this quickly. Let's get on to this week. Peter, I'll let you start first. Will we win? What changes would you make? Or what are going to be the key matchups? What do the viewers need to look out?
One of the key matchups for me is Newman to Charlie, straight away.
Charlie Cameron? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that Young will get Danaher, and I think Wiedering will probably end up on
Hipwood.
What's it? Sorry?
Hipwood.
Yeah, Hipwood. That's it.
Hipwood, yeah.
So I reckon that. Now, obviously, Zorko's out. Now, Zorko hasn't had a massive influence on the game. Daniel Rich is usually the one that gives him some fairly reasonable drive off halfback, and he will probably miss as well. interestingly enough, I would suggest that Charlie won't have it all his own way because their backman, Harris, is it?
Harris Andrews.
Andrews will go to Charlie, and I think you'll find that probably Harry will be a hard matchup for Brisbane. Now,
but that's why we've got to utilise the two forwards, don't we? The two key forwards, because everyone knows that that Charlie's going to get centre of attention this week. So now maybe it's time for Harry to stand up.
Yep, absolutely. He's going to. If there's not going to be one, there'll be two on him. So someone's going to have to be free. Now, the issue is through the centre of the ground. Now, McInerney's a good ruckman for Brisbane. He's a good ruckman. This is going to be a really big test for Pitnet, and I would say that they'll probably go in with the same setup they had with Young as the backup ruckman, and he can do the. Although I might make mention that Harry's work closer to goal in the ruck duels this week was better than it was the week before. If you recall, the week before I said that he was too easily pushed aside. So I think his ruck work was better there, and I think in the midfield, if our boys and we can get the proper rotations through there, I think, and if we get the opportunity of being able to control the centre of the ground, I'm going to tip Carlton, but only just.
Okay, just on your forward setup, I think I'm just looking at the Brisbane backs. So their backs are Starcevic, Payne, Rayner, Connor McKenna, Harris Andrews, Daniel Rich. So hopefully, I'm
assume that Rich and Zorko don't play because I think they're both very.
Yeah,
very
I'm just looking. I'm just thinking who's going to take our big fellas. I don't know much about Payne, Starcevic. I don't know if he.
Jack Payne. He's pretty good, solidly built key position backman.
Okay. 197. He's 197 centimetres.
It's pretty tall.
Jack Payne. Yeah, and Starcevic is 187. So yes, it'll probably be Payne and Harris. What's Harris Andrews?
Harris Andrews, yeah.
Harris Andrews is 202 centimetres. So he may even go to Charlie. He may even go to Harry.
I think they'll alternate depending on how they go.
Yeah, but then who's going to be efficient enough to take on Charlie? Starcevic can't beat him.
No.
And what was the other big bloke that you mentioned?
Payne.
I don't think he's up to it, particularly with Charlie either. I think.
But I don't either.
Listen, we should change this up a bit this week. We should keep the forward line a lot more open and lower our eyes and run into it rather than be in a situation where they think it's going to be overhead.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going for Carlton, Vince. Who do you think will be? Do you think there'll be any changes at Carlton?
It's a good question. I mean, the VFL had a good hit out, but I think they failed this week. They
lost by 3 points.
Yeah, they won a couple of close ones in the previous 2 or 3 weeks, but they didn't have quite the same output from players. I mean, Paddy Dow still got 25 possessions, but I mean, I don't blame him if he doesn't get 40 anymore because it doesn't really matter. He doesn't get a go anyway. I really wonder about the selection integrity. One of the things I noticed leading up to this West Coast game was the anxiety and frustration and genuine concern by a lot of our supporters and even people that I've known for a long time saying, is this team on track? Or question marks were being asked of the coaches. Selection integrity doesn't seem to exist because players who are non-performers keep getting a game week after week after week. I think they've got to finally make a statement and bring back in players that deserve the opportunity. I think in a game where you've beaten another side by over 100 points, if you're a player like Honey, who's I think he only got the 1 goal. I don't think he did all that much. Fisher didn't do all that much. Eddie Curnow didn't do all that much. I think the spotlight's got to come on these guys. And, maybe it's time to bring in another 2 or 3 that are ready to come back.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see what they do at the selection table after a 108-point victory. I dare say that they'll probably keep an unchanged lineup because I don't think there were any injuries out of the game, were there?
No. Nothing. And
no one else that's been out through injuries ready to come back, are they? We were thinking that this is what really annoys me. The club puts out an injury list on a Monday or a Tuesday, and they say that Sam Doherty's still 2 to 4 weeks away.
And then
within 48 hours, they've selected him to play. I actually suspected that might have been a bit of a furphy and that they weren't going to play him at all, and they were just trying to, do one of those last-minute withdrawal type situations. But they did. Yeah. They played him and they played Sard. So, in other words, the club can't be trusted with any of the figures that they give us on injured players.
No.
So I don't think there's anyone else ready to come back from injury.
Well, the only one that they might think is Motlop because he got omitted because he was suspended.
He's a chance of coming back. Maybe he'll come in for Honey. He might be about the only one that might come in for Honey.
Well, I personally think that Kennedy should come in for Ed Curnow.
And that may be a change as well, but who knows? They seem to love Ed Curnow. Doesn't matter what he does.
I think Honey didn't show me much.
No.
Guys, I wouldn't be that bloody I wouldn't be that kind. I'd put Motlop straight in the 2s and get him to come back through the 2s.
Yeah, he probably.
Well, he didn't do much against St Kilda. He didn't do too much against Adelaide either. So
I've got a big question mark over his. I've got a big question mark over his pace and his agility to make a contest at quick level. So I would throw him back there and make him earn his spot rather than be in a situation where he was, a walk-up start.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Peter's going for Carlton. Vince.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to go for Carlton because, as I said, it's got that same smell about it that it had when we played Sydney. I don't think Brisbane travel all that well either, to be honest. I mean, they had a grinding sort of a victory against GWS. Was it GWS? Not that was the week before, wasn't it? Who did they beat on the weekend? Fremantle. Sorry. They had a pretty convincing win against Fremantle, but the week before, I think they only just got over GWS from memory. They've been winning against reasonably mediocre opposition in recent times. The only real good wins they've had have been at the Gabba. So I think it's going to be a huge test for us. I think it's got that same smell about it, as I said, that we had against Sydney last year. So I'm going to tip us. I'm going to say that Carlton will get over the line, only just. Carlton by 8 points.
Well, we've got Peter, Lana and Jean are all saying 15 and Toby 12. Okay, so I will go for Carlton only because the game is in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
If it was in Brisbane, we don't play that well up there. I would think that they'd beat us. We need to keep their key forwards quiet. We need a job done on Danaher, Danaher's a bit like the old Brendan Favola. When he's hot,
a bit of an enigma, isn't he? I think.
When he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, you may as well just sub him out of the game and tell him go have a shower. And he'll either kill you or he'll do nothing. And they'll know in the first few quarters. But I think that we will win by about 4 goals.
Don't discount Hipwood either. Don't discount Hipwood for.
Yeah, but he's another one. He's a bit of an enigma too. He tends to drop his head if you watch him. If he's not getting things his way, but I don't know. It must be the big players, the big sooks.
Can I ask you a question, Brownie?
Yeah, sure. Vince.
Do you think that it's a good idea for Brisbane? I'm just looking at this from a Brisbane perspective. They've got Hipwood, who's a left footer, pretty rangy, skinny body type, and you got Danaher that's not too dissimilar to that, left footer again. Mm-hmm. Both of them don't seem to have a right side of their body. Do you think that that's a good idea and a sound recruiting decision to have gotten Danaher when you've already got Hipwood? They've only just given Hipwood another, a 6-year contract at the end of last year. So he ain't going anywhere by the looks of it. But I just wonder about the soundness of that. I like our combination where we've got Charlie being the right footer, Harry the left footer, and you've got a little bit of variety there.
Well, if you look at you look at another sport, look at cricket, for instance. If you've got a left and a right hand opener, you're in a situation where you've got, your bowling can't just get straight back into a line and length thing. They've got to change up their routine a little bit. Well, the same sort of thing can occur.
Good analogy. Yeah, I like it.
With the situation of a left and right foot, and as long as they're smart about it, and as long as they're using it intelligently, that could be a really dangerous weapon.
Yeah. I just think Brisbane's a bit too one-dimensional like that in their forward line with those two blokes. But anyway, who knows?
Well, people talking about got to watch out their small forwards: Charlie Cameron, McCarthy, Rayner, Zach Bailey.
True. That is very true. They've got a lot of great roving forwards, and they tend to hit the packs hard, like Vinny Cotoggio was saying earlier, that they run past packs, whether it's Zach Bailey, whether it's Charlie Cameron. They are brilliant at roving the ball off the packs. I mean, I keep thinking of Eddie Betts every time I see Charlie Cameron. They've just got that same almost telepathic nous of knowing where the ball's going to go off the pack.
Yeah. Well, here's our tipping. Here's our tipping leaderboard. I'm out on front. We all got the right.
And if we all keep tipping Carlton every week, that's not going to change.
No, don't worry. I will tip with my head, not my heart, as Joan. I'm sure Peter will too, if depending what happens over the next few weeks.
And I think Vince, the order of that is purely and simply alphabetic too. I think.
Hey.
Yeah, well, Joe tipped against us against St Kilda, and that's the reason why he's in front.
and then I sorted alphabetically. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Peter,
yes.
Peter, once again, thank you very much for spending some time with us. It seems to be getting longer and longer every week, and I know the viewers really appreciate you coming on and listening. It was funny, Vince, before you got on, I was talking to both Pete and Vin, and they were talking with themselves, and I was just listening, and they're talking about the supporters, how they don't understand how hard it is when you're actually out on the ground. Like you and I, Vince, we've played football, but not at the senior level, not at a professional level. So
well, between me, you, and Brownie, we've played just over 50 games of football.
Yeah. How many goals did I kick, Pete?
And we've got one, got one Premiership medal between us too.
Several.
Where's my third of the medal?
Anyway, can I be just a little bit selfish? I'm sorry, and I won't take too much time with the viewers and stuff like that. I was contacted during the week by one of our viewers, and it's a young lady that actually used to work with me for some time. And I'd just like to send a cheerio to her too, Leash, and her family in Queensland. So she contacted me to say that she's watching the show, etc., and she hasn't seen me for a while. She rang me prior to the show, so I thought I'd just give her a cheerio and just avoid.
Fantastic.
Well done. All right then, Pete. See you next week.
All right, guys.
Good on you, Brownie. We'll
see you later. Bye.
Well, Vince, now comes the frivolity of the show.
Yes.
Doesn't it? No, I actually liked it. Was good having. We tell Vinny to have his phone charged, and what does he do? He goes out all day, comes in with it half charge.
Well, what do you do?
You know what it's time for, Vince?
It's probably time for.
Vince, I was trying to find a video or some audio of winner chicken dinner because Big Vincenz, he came through last week.
Well, he came through, everyone.
Bingo. It won. Shepherd and Harness, $2.40.
He certainly can go, can't he?
Gina, I told you guys, put your house on it. You'd have won 2.5 houses. Made up for all no debt. No, I'm only joking. But Vince, it was a great win at $2.40.
Yes.
So
I told you I was confident on this one.
Yeah, you did, because you put all our last bit of money on it.
I did. That's how confident I was.
This week's bet is...
Yes, we're going to go to Menangle over there in New South Wales, just west of Sydney. The harness racing meeting there on Tuesday, the 2nd of May. This will be a day meeting, so I think the race starts at about 3:47. I think it is
3:47 p.m.
Yeah, and we see a horse there named For the Boss, number 5 in race 4. So I think that win last night, more than anything, was a great victory for Michael Voss, the boss, and it certainly took the pressure off him, at least for a week anyway. So it was a really good performance by the players, and I'm sure Bossy enjoyed that, and it was certainly a win for the boss. So we're going to back that horse For the Boss, number 5 in race 4 at Menangle on Tuesday. So I think we're going to put $10 on it and see how it goes.
Okay, so let's have a look at Vince's running sheet. He's had...
We're in the black there, Joe. We started with $40.
I know. The 11th of April, you had an all-up, no return. 17th of April, you had a $10 bet, no return. Then you've turned the tables last week, $25 straight on the nose, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So this week we've got $10 on...
For the boss for the win.
For the boss. I thought it said For the Boss, but it's For the Boss.
For the boss. Yeah. For boss the boss. He's the boss of our team.
At Menangle. Vince,
correct.
What's that? I've just had some news from our executive producer, Rocco.
Yeah.
Yes, Rocco. Yes. Okay. So, Vince, as was stated earlier in the program,
yep,
you will be managed out of the program one possibly 2 weeks. We hope you've learnt your lesson. You've been caught at an Essendon game wearing an Essendon scarf.
No, it isn't. Hang on, an Essendon hat. It was.
Okay. You still haven't explained why did you go to Melbourne, North Melbourne, when Carlton was on?
Well, let's put it this way. Tanya and I had an option. We couldn't get to Perth on the weekend, so we'd like to. She said, "I'd like to go out with you on Saturday night." We went to a little place called Graysland over there in Spotswood, which is like a big eating place. Like there's all these stalls of all various types of cuisine from all over the world. It's really quite an interesting place. And we went there for a few hours. And then she said, "What else can we do?" And I said, "Well, we can either go to Melton, if you like, and go and see the harness racing meeting, or we can go and see the Melbourne-North Melbourne game, or we can go back home and watch the Carlton game." But she said, "Come on, I feel like going somewhere." So I said, "All right, let's go to the Melbourne game. We'll watch that." As it turns out, both Melbourne, North Melbourne, and West Coast Carlton were both wipeouts. Both results were around 100 points.
Why couldn't you have done something romantic, Vince, like taking it to the movies or to a theatre show?
I did that actually a day earlier.
Oh, well, there you go, ladies.
So there you go. In fact, it's a good movie too, Joe. You should go and see it. It's called Mafia Mama with Toni Collette. She, in fact, produces the movie. And if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. It's a bit of fun. It's very far-fetched, I've got to say. But a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment. For people who love, mafia movies, but with a bit of humour thrown in, this is very well worth going to. So if you get a chance, go and see it. Mafia Mama with Toni Collette.
I'll wait for it to come out on Netflix or on my illegal Android TV box. So I'll do one of the two. No, but in all seriousness, Vince, you will be away for probably a week or two.
Yes, I will be. I'll be in hospital, in fact, for a couple of weeks. So going to have a pretty important and what can I say? Life-changing operation. So Hopefully I survive it. Hopefully I come back bigger and better than ever. Actually, not bigger.
I
don't have to come back bigger,
I think you won't. No, you'll be okay. So we're all
hopefully
thinking
I
of
can
you,
still be
Vince.
called Big Vincenz when you come back.
We might have to change it to Little Vincenz.
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think I'll ever be
Anyway,
Little Vincenz, that's for sure.
But it is on Wednesday, the operation. So we do wish you all the best, Vince. And
Thanks,
I'll keep
mate.
the viewers. We will be having.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll still provide you with my Omen Bet of the Week. How's that? Even though I'm not going to be on the show.
All right.
All
and we will have a suitable replacement.
Yes.
None other than Richard DJ Rashid, who was formerly from the Sandpit. He will be joining myself for possibly 1, maybe 2 weeks.
What a fantastic replacement. I've got to say, I'm a bit worried about my job if he does too good a job, Rash. But no, he's a great guy and very knowledgeable about football. And I'm sure you'll all enjoy watching Rash together with Joe and Brownie next week.
Yes, we'll be okay. And so, Vince, as we promised the viewers...
Thank you to all the viewers that have sent lovely messages of good wishes. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
And as I said, Vince, when we win, we will play the Carlton song. So before we leave, it's good night from me here in Bangkok and...
Good night from me in Melbourne.
And Vince, to take us out, dulcet tones.
We are the Navy Blues. We are the old dark Navy Blues. We're the team that never lets you down. We're the only team old Carlton knows. With all the champions they like to send up, we'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous old dark blues.
So let's hope that they play that song at the end of September. So good night, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Go Blues.